This is Service Headline News. I'm your host, Marty Smith, and I'm joined by our historian, Eric Perrott.
Hey now!
And our man in the closet, Jake Wall.
What's going on, guys?
We're here to bring you the latest headlines and updates pertinent to all servicemen and women. So take your seats, get informed, and have a laugh as the Swearing In Podcast presents Service Headline News. Hey, Jake, my daughter has now been listening to our episodes. After all this time, right? She's like, hey, you guys are pretty funny. She goes, why do you call that guy your man in the closet?
Yeah.
Does he actually sit in the closet? I said, yes, he does.
Yeah.
That's the best. Awesome. It's the best sound room in his house. He sits in the closet.
Yeah. Well, all the flannel absorb and absorb the echoes.
That's awesome.
Well, let me start off. It's the 13th today, but it will be published on the 14th. So, happy birthday to the U.S. Army.
Yes, sir.
On this date back
right.
in, 1775, 14 June, Army was founded. When the Continental Congress authorized an enlistment of expert riflemen to serve the United Colonies for 1 year. Well,
nice.
Well, they extended the shit out of that, didn't they?
Yeah.
So, happy birthday, U.S. Army.
Very good.
Eric, you got a military date in history for us?
Yes,
a real history.
I do. By God, and it's an interesting one.
Do we get to guess this time?
Yeah, you'll never get it. You guys.
Is it the birthday of the Army?
As a matter of fact, that's a piece of it. No, it's not.
Boom.
No. The Army piece was all Marty because he's prior Army. Oh. So I let him bring in that.
Well, technically, you guys are sort of prior Army.
Heritage.
Your prior roots Army? Come from the Army.
Oh. Yeah. All right, I guess.
Yeah. What do you mean you guess?
I guess I'll buy that. I mean, 1947, I'm Army Air Force gone. I'm an Air Force guy now.
See, when you're as big as strong as Eric is, you like to create fights. So I don't know how many listeners we have who are Army, but they're all stewing right now. They're like, this son of a bitch.
Don't let me break out my favorite bomber, pal. I'll bring it on. I'll bring it back. So, guys, in the 1800s, the big expansion west, right? Oh. We started taking property and land from the Indians. In June 13th, actually today, in 1979.
1979?
Yes. No, you're going to see the connection. So in the 1800s, big expansion headed west. They go all the way to South Dakota. They strike gold. Well, the Army steps back and says, you know what? We're not going to enforce the fact that we gave all that land to the Indians, and we said we wouldn't come on that land without your approval. When they struck gold, the Army just backed up, closed their eyes. Place went crazy with miners. They swarmed. Uh-huh. So the Black Hills of South Dakota were taken back by the government in 1877 with force. If you guys will remember a certain battle, Custer, that was another cause that Custer got beat up because we had that mass rush. Well, June 13th, 1979, the United States Court of Claims settled with the Sioux Nation for a 5-2 opinion of that federal government. 5-2 opinion said the Indians were entitled to $17.5 million for the fair market value of the Black Hills area of South Dakota that were taken from them by the government in 1877.
Nice.
Wow.
Since,
100 years later.
Yes, and that was my point. 1924, in the 1920s, this was pending in the court then. It was, the Indians' claim had been pending before various courts since 1920. However, in 79, they got the $17.5 million, and they also said they were entitled to interest, which totaled 90 million, and 115 million. The Attorney General for the Indians
Nice.
estimated that 60,000 Sioux would benefit from the decision, which still can be appealed to the Supreme Court because the decision was criticized by the Sioux tribe at Pine Ridge. The sacred Black Hills are not for sale, he said, adding the individual Indian would not benefit from the claim. The benefactors, he said, would be the federal government and the Washington lawyers who have worked on this case for the last 40 or 50 years. So, trying to do the right thing, I guess you could question that, but we actually tried to settle with money, of course, a long disputed agreement between the U.S. government and the Sioux Nation.
Well, now
So do they get that land back?
No.
No.
Okay, so that's not even on the table. So that's why he's pissed.
That's right. And that's why the deal really wasn't truly a good deal. It was just a bribe that says.
But honestly, though, according to that timeline, the VA is doing really good. Right? Like, if you can get a napalm freaking claim before you die, hey, you did better than the Sioux Nation.
That's right.
Well, and I'm going to give you a perfect example of what we were talking about. Do as I say, not as I do. So in November of 1875, President Grant secretly ordered the Army to stop attempting to prevent the miners from entering the area. The government apparently believed that the Sioux need for the rations that the government had been supplying them would prevent the Indians from making trouble. So he said, we provide you a bunch of food. You're not going to have any problem with us bringing in all these miners. And of course, the Sioux Indians said, bullshit. We didn't agree to it.
You've already taken our land 4 times up till now.
Yeah.
We've kind of learned our lesson.
Yeah.
The series of conflicts that broke out that ultimately culminated in the defeat and death of Custer at the Little Bighorn on June 25th, 1876, due directly to us taking that land and breaking the agreement with them.
Huh.
You know, somebody on his staff was like, are you sure they're not going to be pissed? No, it'll be good. It'll be good.
They're hungry. We're feeding them. Yeah,
we give them snacks.
Snacks.
A lesson we applied to the Afghan nationals when we went over there. Like, they'll probably be grateful for us giving them MREs, just like the Sioux were. Yet another lesson we never learned.
Worked for Custer.
Worked for Custer?
Yep.
Military defeat. That's good enough on this date in history, 13 June, 1979.
Nice. Yeah.
Wow. Was that Supreme Court case?
No.
Oh, no.
It's not. Yeah, it's still eligible to be
appealed or something.
Appealed. Correct.
How petty would that be, right?
Oh, man. I'm telling
okay,
you.
this lower court awarded you how much money? We're going to appeal it and do another 100 years on this thing. So,
or give us the land back. Keep your money. We get all that land.
No.
That's not even on the table.
No.
Good one, Eric. Thanks.
Yeah, man.
On to the news. So, speaking of, maybe not the same thing, but it is interesting. Our first story is from the Associated Press, and they're saying, join the military and become a U.S. citizen. So they have a program. I think they've been running it for a year or two. I didn't realize that they had it. But under this program, recruits are offered to sign up with the military, and if they get through basic, they'll become American citizens. So you're talking legal, they keep saying legal immigrants, right?
Do we have any of those?
Holy cat! Hey, that just solved your recruiting problem for the Army.
Well,
though, right?
that's why they're going to it. Yeah, that's why they're going to it. So recruits are quickly enrolled in the citizenship system, and when they start basic training, an expedited process kicks off, including all required paperwork and testing. By the time the recruits finish their 7 weeks of training, the process is complete, and they are sworn in as American citizens. 7 weeks.
All right, that's cool. I like that. However, it's really freaking annoying for as long as it takes years to get
Right.
through that process. And they're
Right.
like, yeah, we can really do it just in 7 weeks.
That
Well,
tells you something, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it's annoying.
Wow.
It's because if you don't have to go through that lazy GS-12 up there processing paperwork like they process clearances, no wonder these guys can never get through, right? But there is something, and we'll talk about that at the end, because I like the concept of that. It's almost like, hey, sign up to defend your new country, and we'll make you an American. And I was like, I can get behind that, right?
I can too, but do
I
you
like it.
really believe you're not going to see some loyalty issues to their initial home,
Well,
especially if family are still abroad, they still live there.
That is
You have loyalties to that other country.
That is the other side of the coin there, right? So,
And now you're actually maybe going to war with that country. Now that person's torn.
There is some of that too. So
Yeah, but they would be awesome linguists.
if we went to the country, right? If we had to fight in their country, right?
Yeah.
Last October, the Army established. Oh, go ahead,
Eric. There's always loyalty issues. I think the benefits outweigh the advantages are outside the disadvantages.
I'm on board with it. I really believe it'll work, but I still believe there are issues that they're not thinking about. I don't.
Well, I agree.
Yeah, we've proven that with every government decision.
That's right. This sounds great in the briefing.
Yeah.
Because if you take, hey, these guys are really willing, and there's probably going to be a lot of them, really willing to be Americans. And if they're willing to stand up and fight for the country, we should make them a citizen. Yes, all the way around the room. But then the one guy is like, well, what if they're just want the citizenship and they're really not that loyal to the country? They're like, hey, shut that guy up.
Well, we're not fighting a war right now, so they don't care.
Well, that's true. But how easy could it be to become an American citizen if you had a long-term plan and you had nefarious reasons behind that plan?
Oh, yes.
Well,
This would be, maybe this is a counter intel kind of op, though. They're like, okay, bring them in. That way we get close to them and
we can start
run their
tracking their
screens. Yeah,
maybe that's a good point.
There you
go. Last October,
either way, it's going to be good.
Last October, the Army reestablished a program for legal permanent residence and that's a troublesome term, legal permanent residence. So I guess you're in.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand what permanent means. So, but legal permanent residents to apply for accelerated naturalization once they get to basic training. Recruiters began to reach out on social media using short videos in various languages to target the top 10 countries that recruits had come from during the previous year. The Air Force effort, so both the Army and now the Air Force has started, the Air Force effort began this year, and the first group of 14 graduated from basic training and were sworn in as new citizens in April. They included recruits from, and remember you're talking about the countries right?
Mm-hmm.
They included recruits from Cameroon,
Georgia,
Jamaica, Kenya, the Philippines, Russia, and South Africa.
Wow.
Nice.
So can you maintain a dual citizenship? Get the U.S. and maintain citizenship with your
not according to the U.S. for some reason.
Now I know you can't for a security clearance. You've
right.
got to be sole.
That's correct.
American, right?
That's correct.
If you're not getting a security clearance, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where are we? As of mid-May, there are about 100 in basic training who have begun the citizenship process and about 40 who have completed it. Air Force Major General Ed Thomas, head of the service's recruiting command, said, "We have large populations of legal U.S. residents who are exceptionally patriotic. They're exceptionally grateful for the opportunities that this country has provided." Just like what we were saying, you get those people, and you would be probably grateful to serve next to those guys. They'll probably be they'll probably outwork you. They're probably happier to be here than we are.
Sure.
So in that situation, it probably works. General Thomas said the program required changes to Air Force policy, coordination with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and a careful screening process to ensure there are no security risks.
Oh, I'm sure that'll work.
Whatever. Like half of the guys I know have wives from any one of those countries.
That's right.
Right? You've got a wife and in-laws living at your house from any one of those countries.
We sat next to a whole bunch of screw-ups that all had top secret security clearances.
Yeah.
And you're like, how do you have this clearance?
Well, like the prime example is, right, my brother was adopted from Korea, right?
Okay.
To keep him eligible to go back to Korea and potentially find his birth parents, they left him dual citizenship.
Okay.
Right? They never applied for his U.S. citizenship until he was 18, and they presented it to him as an option. So, fast forward a couple years, Jake claiming his brother. Why was your brother not a U.S. citizen? If he came here at 4, why was he not a U.S. citizen at 18? I'm like, I explained it, and they're like, yeah, we don't know.
Oh,
Literally,
they questioned you.
They were questioning me.
Yeah.
Well, this is because of your clearance. Your clearance.
Because of my clearance.
Yeah.
However, here's what's bullshit. And I called them out on it. The 3 security guys that were questioning me on this all had Filipino, Korean, and one other Asian nation wives. And had their freaking parents, like from the same freaking country, they're questioning a 4-year-old on. Wow. They're not going to acknowledge the fact that, oh yeah, all of our spouses are from those same countries.
Doesn't matter because they gotta go down their checklist.
How many times have you been through airport security and seen someone who certainly did not look the part of a U.S. citizen who had a what do they call the things you wrap on your head from? Yeah,
not turban.
Well, we'll call it a turban because I don't know its official name. But if you go to D.C. specifically, Dulles?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole place looks like a foreign nation.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And you're checking me to go into the airplane? Please.
Yeah.
Kills me.
We're probably the most suspicious, Eric. You and
I. I'm sure of it. An old white guy.
Dude, you walk into any government building, there's a dozen white, bald guys with beards. Yes. You're like, there's something going on here.
That's true. Oh, my God.
Hey, guard, keep an eye on those son of bitches.
Yeah, watch those guys.
They're white supremacists.
You might be in a club.
It says across the Army, close to 2,900 enlisted during the first half of this budget year, compared with about 2,200 during the same period last year. The largest numbers are from Jamaica with 384, followed by Mexico, Philippines, and Haiti, but many are from Nepal, Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Colombia, and the Dominican Republic. So
a lot of South America and Africa.
Yeah.
How long is their enlistment? They just have a 4-year enlistment?
Well, the story told I
get expedited after a year.
No, they get
after basic. Sorry.
After basic.
Yeah.
They're American citizens once they finish basic. So
yeah, that's cool.
But they have they told a story about this woman. I can't remember what country she was from, but she had just been naturalized after she finished basic. But she signed up for a reserve.
Okay.
So she did basic, and now she's doing 1 weekend a month. But now she's an American citizen.
So smart. Yeah, that's a good deal. And that, holy cow!
Yeah.
Did it say anything? Did it say anything about them being able to now bring family members?
It didn't go into that.
Okay, I was just curious. Right. Bringing other family members back now that they were U.S. citizens.
But that's another.
They can start that process,
thing, right?
though.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it's not like the old service member marrying the Korean woman. All of a sudden, you got a Korean family living with you.
Yeah,
because that's the tradition, right? So
I think it's pretty cool.
I like the thought of it. It's like, hey, you want to be part of this country, then do your part for it. It's almost a little of the Israeli thing, to be a citizen, you got to serve in the military. But it does open the door wide open for some real potential issues,
counterintelligence issues.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but it's just another effort that they're trying to make up for recruiting shortfalls. So.
But to be fair, I highly doubt Jamaica's invading anytime soon. They can have all the intel. I'm no war scientist.
No.
No, you're not.
If I were, I'd say probably unlikely.
Yeah, probably so.
All right, let's go on to some acquisition news, some tech news here. The Army's getting a new light tank. This is from taskandpurpose.com. The Army's getting a new light tank. It's called the M10 Booker. Right?
This replacing a Bradley?
No.
Okay.
It's like bridging a gap, right? And it's supposed to, and the article explained it here, but it's supposed to be basically in support of infantry troops. And so it's not going to be an armor unit. It's not going to do armor missions. It's just supposed to be like an accompanying. It's like what a Bradley is supposed to do, except it's more heavily armored. It's got a bigger punch.
Okay.
So the Army will officially field its new mobile protected firepower system under the designation of the M10 Booker combat vehicle. They announced this last weekend. So conceived as a more compact version of the M1 Abrams tank, the M10 is designed to give light infantry and airborne units increased firepower and bridge a gap in the Army's armor fleet between the Abrams and the Stryker. So the light is kind of a light infantry vehicle. I have no idea why they're phasing out the Bradley.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean,
but we're sending Bradleys to Ukraine, so
it was successful in the desert, man.
It seemed to be, yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's contracts. I don't know. The Booker will provide protected direct fire support for light infantry units in a lighter, more easily transportable package than the Abrams. Well, yeah, but I mean, they have the Stryker and they have the Bradley and they have the FLTV or whatever that thing is called, JLTV.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe
that's a huge difference, though. Like the difference between that and Abrams is massive. That's like saying, well, with C-130s can do it, why can't the C-5 do it?
Fair. That's a fair comparison, okay. Right?
Right.
But it's still, I mean, if you look at the M10, if you search the
M10 I'm looking at it now.
Vehicle, it looks like an M1.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
but it says it's not a light tank. Well, it is not.
This article is saying it is a light tank, but it's wording. So because they don't want to call it a light tank because then they think armor maneuver. They want it as an infantry support vehicle, even though it can't carry any infantry. It only has a crew of 4. So, but let's see. The armament includes. It's a 105 main gun, a coax 7.62, and an external 50 cal.
Sure sounds like a tank to me.
You know.
Wow.
The vehicle weighs essentially half of what an M1 weighs. So it's 38 tons. An M1 is almost double that. It's light enough that 2 can be flown on a C-17, whereas a C-17 can only fly 1 M1 Abrams. So essentially, it's half the weight. I looked at the price. It's like half the cost, and it has a 105 main gun versus a 120 main gun. That's essentially the difference. So they're looking to field this thing to support infantry units, even though they're going to use tankers to do it. So that'll be an interesting thing. But the real interesting part is how they came upon the name. So this Booker is actually
It's,
named.
wait, Marty, let me guess. It's named after the musician Booker T of Booker T and the MGs, 1962 top 100 hit, Green Onions.
Perfect.
Is that it? I was right on.
Well, I think that was the first suggestion. But the one they went with, it's actually named after two soldiers named Booker. And they're separated by about 60 years. So,
oh, geez.
The first one was, and this is the crux of the article. It wasn't about the tank. It was more about why they named it this way, which is, I actually like it. I like how they named it this way. The first one was Robert Booker. He was born in Callaway, Nebraska, and was assigned to Company B, 133rd Infantry Regiment, 34th Infantry Division, at the time of his death on April 9th, 1943, near Fonduque, Tunisia. So while facing blistering enemy fire, Booker carried a light machine gun and a box of ammunition over 200 yards of open ground, continuing to advance despite the fact that two enemy machine guns and several mortars were using him as an individual target.
Wow.
Although enemy artillery also began to register on him, upon reaching his objective, he immediately commenced firing. After being wounded, he silenced one enemy machine gun and was beginning to fire at the other when he received a second mortal wound. With his last remaining strength, he encouraged the members of his squad and directed their fire. He was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor.
Wow.
So that's the first Booker in 1943. The second Booker was named Stephen Booker, or Stevan Booker, a native of Apollo, Pennsylvania. He was killed on April 5th, 2003, while serving as a tank commander with Company A, 1st Battalion, 64th Armor of the 3rd Infantry Division. That day, Booker was leading an armored task force along Iraq's deadly Highway 8 toward Baghdad International Airport when his platoon was ambushed by small arms and rocket-propelled grenade fire. Booker led his tank on counterattack, but as malfunctions piled up, Booker left the safety of the Abrams interior. Booker led his tank on a counterattack, but his external machine gun malfunctioned. So Booker left the safety of the Abrams interior to fire at enemy positions from the top of the tank. When both his and his crew's machine guns malfunctioned, Staff Sergeant Booker, with total disregard for his personal safety, exposed himself by lying in a prone position on top of the tank's turret and accurately engaged enemy forces with his personal weapon. While exposed, he effectively protected his platoon's flank and delivered accurate information to his command during a critical and vulnerable part of the battle. Booker's fearless attitude and excitement over the communications network inspired his platoon to continue the attack and assured them and leadership that they would defeat the enemy and reach their objectives safely. Noting that Booker continuously engaged the enemy along the 8-kilometer route until he was mortally wounded by enemy fire. Booker's family was presented with his Distinguished Service Cross in April 2019, surrounded by hundreds of Third ID soldiers and veterans. So he laid on top of that tank as it was going forward, shooting his weapon at anything he could. That's
the most macho way to die ever.
Oh man. Somebody's like, get in here, get in here. He's like, no, keep going. Jeez, that's pretty badass. Like
a Dr. Strangelove riding the bomb in.
Kinda.
Riding this turret all the way in.
Holy cow. So that's the two Bookers that the M10 Booker is named after. So
that's crazy.
Like I said, the article's more about those two Bookers and why they named it that than the actual tank. And it's like, God, we're buying another new vehicle. It's unbelievable. And I never realized until we started doing this show how much stuff we're just continuously putting into R&D and continuously giving contracts for. It's amazing.
Non-stop.
I mean, they want to replace the Bradley. They want to replace the damn F-22 now.
Yep.
You're like, geez, that's our newest thing. So,
we don't even give it time to be successful.
No, right.
Just time to replace it.
But we've proven that before with Eric's BS bomber choice. It didn't. It's all the timeline. We get one thing,
Good point.
it proves
Yeah.
itself,
Yeah.
and then we ride that thing out, and then meanwhile there's other stuff in the middle.
Well, it's like, oh, we need to replace a B-52. Hey, let's bring up the B-36. That'll do it.
Yeah.
It had its moment of glory.
It did, and it faded out. And what's still in service? The damn B-52.
B-52. Yeah.
Still there.
Well, supposedly with this budget, they are going to retire a whole bunch of A-10s and F-15s.
Wow.
Okay.
Is now the right time to start getting rid of equipment when we're all desperately short of equipment?
Mm.
You know, seems odd that
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah, there is. There is. Speaking of vehicles,
yes. Your article is funny that you mentioned it because my article is also talking about new technology.
oh, you're so smooth, Eric. Yeah,
Oh, that segue was good.
just perfect.
Damn, that was good.
I even
Yes.
sent you a picture.
Listeners, if you want to hone your skills like this, we offer a Patreon page that's no, I'm just kidding. Nobody's paying for that crap.
You're right.
So the Marines are also getting a new light tactical vehicle. It's an ultralight tactical dune buggy. Now it's funny because I thought the Army had some Polaris vehicles. It was the MRZR, the all-terrain vehicle.
Yeah, they had that for a little while, right?
Yeah, well, it came in, like you said, it's only been in service. It was delivered, fielded to infantry and recon Marines back in 2017.
Yeah, it looks like a Razor.
Well, this one is replacing the one from 2017.
God, Jesus.
Yeah, so the Marines are getting a two-person ULTV as an advanced lightweight solution to provide troops with enhanced mobility and sustainability in denied environments. This thing looks just like a Razor, like you said. Like its Army cousin, the infantry squad vehicle, the ULTV doesn't feature extensive ballistic armor for survivability. Instead, the vehicle will rely on its smaller size and speed to evade enemy threats. It's not an assault vehicle. Program manager for light tactical vehicles, Jennifer Moore, told National Defense Magazine ahead of the service's release of the ULTV. It is to lighten the load of the warfighter and then also to provide casualty evacuation support. So it's going to be throw your gear on here, throw your casualties, and let's get out of here.
Yeah.
The souped-up dune buggy fits on both the MV-22 Osprey tilt rotor aircraft as well as the CH-53 King Stallion heavy lift helicopter. The ULTV can support infantry needs ranging from logistical support and casualty evacuation to command and control and electronic warfare missions, as well as scouting missions. Go figure. Yeah. The ULTV fielding comes amid a major reorganization of the Marine Corps amid becoming more agile for a projected conflict in the Indo-Pacific region. So it's all about China right now, man.
I know.
It truly is. Fielding the ULTVs serves as a signal that the Corps is keeping in stride with the amphibious roadmap laid out in Force Design 2030. Colonel John Gutierrez, portfolio manager for logistics combat element systems, in a statement, this new capability will ultimately help forge a more agile and resilient Corps, one which is empowered to overcome the evolving complexities of modern warfare. Bottom line, it's going to be fast, it's going to get in, it's going to deliver troops, it'll pull troops out, and that's what it's for.
I don't, it's hard to picture how that's going to be employed, right?
Well, yeah, there's absolutely no armor on it.
No, there's no doors on it.
Correct. It's an open door Razor is what it is.
But if you go, let's take your old Humvee, right? With the soft sided doors and all that shit. Humvee had enough room. I mean, yeah, you could get the 4-pack configuration, but it still had kind of a middle. You know, I mean, if somebody was wounded, you could throw them in there. You could throw more ammo in there. This thing, and we'll put a link in it in the description. This thing doesn't look like it carries much more than just the 4 guys riding it.
Well, if you notice in the back, there is a small compartment for munitions. I'm sure you could probably lay a litter across the top of that thing.
Curl up, buddy. Hold on.
Yeah. The good thing about this Razor, though, is it's going to climb out of situations that a Humvee probably couldn't get out of. This thing can get over that kind of terrain.
I don't know. It's odd though. It just seems like you're more vulnerable riding in this thing
That I would agree.
than you
Yeah,
were.
that's a guarantee. There's nothing there, man.
Yeah.
Other than a roll cage.
Yeah.
And given the way the military goes, they'll give these things out, but then 2 months later, they'll require everybody to wear bicycle helmets to operate them.
Well, you know what's interesting too? The plus in this thing, if there is a plus, it's only $80,000 a piece.
Maybe that's the reason, but still,
Yeah.
it just doesn't seem to be as versatile.
$80,000?
Hummer.
Yeah, $80,000 a piece. It's going to bring the fleet roughly 420, following earlier vehicle buys in fiscal years 22 and 23.
Huh.
The service's unfunded priorities list also contains an additional $6 million for additional ULTVs. So 80,000 when you can get a Razor to run down in Moab for, I don't know, 14,000.
Right.
Seems a little overboard.
Well, when I went out to the 25th Infantry Division out in Hawaii, they're a traditional light fighter division. In a company of 120 guys, they had 3 Humvees. You know,
Jeez.
they walked or were carried everywhere. So they had 3 Humvees, one for the commander, and I think one for the XO, and you know, I don't know, one for the first sergeant maybe to run rations or something like that. But everybody else were leg infantry. They were walking, or they were parachuting in, or they were getting air assaulted. But the majority of what they did was walk. Marines, I think, are essentially the same way, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how these employ into this Marine doctrine, but I mean, if they have the engine that I think they have on it, if they're like a Razor, you can easily throw somebody out the side of that thing.
Oh, yeah.
You take that curve.
You ain't strapped in that bad boy. But like I said, it'll crawl over some terrain that a Hummer wouldn't have crawled up.
I agree. I'm sure it would. Right.
Yeah. So if you've got to get out of a sticky area, that's probably the vehicle you want. Other than
if you're in a sticky area, I don't know where you're driving those damn things. Yeah. Like they're shooting. Don't bring the Razor in.
Oh,
It's cool looking. It's cool
Yeah.
looking, but it'll be interesting to see how they're employed with all these new vehicles. My God.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eric. And here's another Marine story. This is out of Task and Purpose. Now, I brought this story up. It's kind of dry, but at the end, I want to ask you both a question. So, from taskandpurpose.com, Marines want to use Tomahawks to sink enemy ships from 1,000 miles away. All right, sounds like a good idea.
I'm on board.
The Navy is developing a new long-range anti-ship missile dubbed the Maritime Strike Tomahawk that would allow Marine units based on Japanese islands to sink Chinese ships taking part in an invasion of Taiwan. So I get it. You know, you send these out with little teams, and here comes your big destroyer, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, from this little spit of land, you got this Tomahawk bearing down on it.
Yeah.
You're like, that's pretty badass. It's a good idea. Right now, the Marine Corps, now this is a horrible acronym. The Marine Corps Navy Marine Expeditionary Ship Interdiction System, NMESIS, or Nemesis.
Oh, God.
Uses naval strike missiles which have a range of only up to 115 miles. So Tomahawk missiles, however, have a range of up to 1,000.
Can that thing be launched from I'm trying to figure out what a launch vehicle looks like.
Well, they're developing that, and they're developing these units that will specifically do this, right? The Maritime Strike Tomahawk, or MST, is intended to strike moving targets at sea up to 1,000 miles away. The Navy expects to receive its first maritime strike Tomahawks in late 2024. Maritime or MSTs would give the Marine Corps a long-range strike capability, allowing it to protect forward deployed Marine units, which would be able to operate within range of an enemy's long-range defenses. Yeah, that's a good idea and concept. But here, the Marine Corps' Expeditionary Advanced Base Operations concept, the whole thing they're trying to move the Marines towards, and I think that buggy was part of the reorg of the Marines.
Sure.
But it calls, now listen to this, it calls for putting small numbers of Marines ashore on temporary locations, such as remote islands in the Pacific, from which they could target enemy ships with this Tomahawk.
Doesn't sound like a new mission. You throw a couple Marines out there and you leave them be.
Well, you got one shot, right? Then what are you doing? You better start digging, baby.
Dig in and hope they come back.
As soon as they see this missile coming at us, we're like, everything you got on that island.
Smoke the island. Yep.
So that's some, you probably got some Medal of Honor winners coming out of that duty. I mean, my God. You got maybe 2 shots. I don't know.
Yeah.
But how'd you like to be like a little squad of 3 or 4 guys?
Well, and you know how many of them are going to be left behind, forgotten about.
That's exactly
when conflict
happened
starts.
in World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We put guys all over the place.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know? So
there was still up until the 90s, there was a Japanese guy living on one of the islands.
Yeah, he was real famous. I think he came out. They talked him off the ledge, and he was like, "No, you don't have to fight anymore, buddy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, you guys are our friends now.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
Then he became the CEO of Toyota. So yeah. Let's talk about horses. Okay, let's talk about horses. Specifically, Arlington National Cemetery horses. Do you guys know anything about horses?
Not a thing. 4 legs and a tail.
No, thank you very much.
IKEA was making meatballs out of
You
them?
would have been valued. You would have been. From stripes.com. The Army is suspending horse-drawn funerals at Arlington National Cemetery for a year. Right? The 3rd Infantry Regiment's Caisson platoon was initially pulled from escorting caskets of fallen service members to grave sites for 45 days initially. But Army officials said this week that the suspension will continue for a year to ensure the health of the platoon's herd. What kind of health? What problems do they got? Well, I'm glad you asked that.
Knee problems.
Well, you would think that doesn't even mention their knees. So, Arlington National Cemetery will extend its suspension of horse-drawn funerals until June 2024, while the Army rehabilitates its troubled working horses program. Veterinarians and equine experts recommend the extension to give the platoon's 27 horses more time to rest and recover, and allow the Army to make changes to stabilize the program. So it makes it sound like, man, they're working these horses to death.
Yeah, it does.
And it did say that these horses do anywhere from like 8 to 10 services a day.
Wow.
And you're like, okay, all right, but they're just walking.
Yeah, all right.
They're just pulling.
Might be time to bring in old Douglas with the camels.
Oh, God. Good call. That was great.
Eric, they're not feeding the people at the gravesite. So we don't need Douglas.
It's not.
But I'm talking about its capable
potluck.
Okay. Its capability. They go longer without getting dehydrated.
This concludes the ceremony. If you'd like to step over to the canopy over there, we have a big buffet lined up.
The livestock slaying station.
We shot the current camel. He's fresh.
All right, so the working horses are at rehabilitation facilities for treatment of hoof, joint, and muscle injuries related to their ceremonial work carrying a caisson a chest formerly used for ammunition that has been used to bring dead soldiers off the battlefield since the 1800s. An Army report last year showed its military working horses were suffering from poor and potentially life-threatening living conditions. 4 of the Quezon platoon's horses died in the past 2 years, including 2 that had gravel and sand in their digestive systems. Now, this is horrible. In February 2022.
This isn't a matter of overworking these poor animals. This is
right. That's exactly
literally
right.
Just get back in your hole.
When you hear the conditions of these horses, you'll be shocked. In February 2022, Mickey and Tony, the 2 platoon horses from the old guard, were euthanized within days of each other due to colon impaction.
Oh my God.
According to an investigation by the Army,
horrible living condition.
Tony had to be euthanized because the sand and gravel impaction in his case was too extensive to be removed through surgery. The report related to Mickey stated there was a, quote, dry, firm mass of feed or foreign material such as dirt or sand. So, the Army investigated.
Wow.
The Army investigated. According to the investigation, veterinarians found sediment in the manure of other horses, which could be attributed to the small amount of grass available in their turnout fields.
Yep, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, the
they're not providing enough food for these poor animals.
Exactly right.
And they're eating everything down to literally the rocks.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And
then getting them out there every day to do 8 freaking funerals.
This is such an Army operation, as you hear this. The 2 horses that died were also in their 20s and had likely consumed sand and gravel from the ground while eating hay. Additionally, the low quality of hay made it difficult for older horses to digest as they searched for edible feed by nosing it on the ground. Army veterinarians observed this problem half a year before the horses died, but they didn't escalate the issue beyond the platoon leadership.
Damn. See, and again, nobody gets fired.
Isn't it so typically Army?
Wow.
So they raised the question through the appropriate channels and nothing happened.
They told him, they're like, hey, your horses are eating dirt.
Unbelievable.
And they're like, okay, thanks. We'll see you later.
Cool. Get out of here, nerd doctor.
This guy, like we don't know our horses.
He calls himself a veterinarian. That's not even in the Army.
Guys, the Air Force in the Philippines had the only horse unit where we actually had mounted horse patrol.
Really?
Yeah. Those horses were taken better care of than the people that rode them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Those things were precious, man, because we used them to go into the big, tall elephant grass. And I mean, those guys, that shit went everywhere. So those horses were well taken care of.
Oh, wow.
It's a damn shame that something like Arlington, you can't take care of the horse.
Well, it says
Vandenberg still has mounted horses.
They do?
To patrol, to patrol the whole.
Oh, because it's big,
area, the whole base, and
especially like the coastline and stuff too, right?
But they don't belong to the Air Force, do they?
They are.
No,
they aren't. Oh, maybe not.
I don't think so.
But either way, there's horses at Vandenberg. People in camouflage ride them.
Okay.
To clear the areas around missile fields.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense. Yeah.
To make sure launches are good.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that might be true. Shit.
But I don't know.
So we'd have to research that one.
They had bad hay, right? The low quality of hay,
sorry.
Right? So the platoon was unable to compel the hay supplier to furnish superior quality hay because the Army contract did not specify the necessary nutritional value. They just said hay. And these guys are like, give them the cheap stuff, man. They don't know any better. So the investigation revealed that the small turnout fields where horses grazed outdoors were filled with construction debris and manure. Even if these fields were in good condition, they would have been insufficient to support more than 6 or 7 horses. How many horses do you think the Army had out there in that field?
93.
Close. 12.
No.
They had 64 of them.
Oh my God.
In a field that could only support 6 or 7, they had 64 of them. No wonder they ate everything down to the nub. There wasn't nothing left. In the past few months, the Army has taken the initiative to retire some of its older horses. The Army has taken the initiative. Somebody got their ass chewed. They're like, hey, you gotta do something. So they retire some of its older horses, some of which were up to 20 years old and still part of the team that pulled the over 2,500-pound caissons. More pasture land has also been taken, and Congress has provided the necessary funding to upgrade the stables. Why do they have to upgrade the stables?
Well, they need more area.
More money.
And not put the hay on the ground.
Right.
Like those feeders aren't, you can get those feeders at Tractor Supply or Big R.
Easy. Right.
And elevate it off the ground. Once a quarter, rinse it out. Once a month, rinse it out. It's not that difficult.
Yeah,
no, it ain't.
Go muck the stables, right? Go muck the stables.
Yeah, go take care of these animals that take care of you.
I don't even know how, and I think I could do a better job than them bums.
Yeah, right.
Jeez, man.
The Army is currently developing a lighter caisson to lessen the burden on horses and creating new saddles and other equipment to prevent horse injuries. The Army has since, now this is a revelation, the Army has since hired a full-time herd manager and enhanced the horses' diets after the euthanizations occurred, when the regular veterinary blood work indicates that the horses are making progress. So
well, that's good.
Who was managing this before? Some guy who got non-voled into that assignment.
The traditional Army reservists. 1 weekend a month. Yep, they're looking good.
Looking good. I'll be back next month. Make sure you pay for my orders. Unfortunately, 2 more horses had to be euthanized since then, one because of a leg fracture and the other due to intestinal issues. Like I said, the platoon typically takes part in up to 8 military funerals per day at Arlington National Cemetery. So, no more horses for a year.
Well,
all right.
Someone needs to be fired.
All right, take us home, Jake. What do you got?
Man, so it's a Marine and Navy heavy
what
day.
What the hell is going on in the Far East? Remember we had that story. We had that story last week about the 2 guys smashing cars. Remember that?
Stealing shit.
Here's what's funny, Marty. We were talking about this article before this, right? I literally thought it would pop up. All I did was Google Marines arrested Okinawa.
Yeah. Oh
man,
that's way too general.
There were so many articles. I mean, it's every month.
Yeah, right.
Right. And then growing up, there was always those, or, while I was in, there was always those threats for Okinawa to shut down because every 5 to 6 years, some Marine goes all rapey.
Yep. Gets all stupid.
And then it gets dumb. And then like the whole island is like, nope, we're sick and tired of it.
Right.
Well, like, okay, it's once a year, me thinking that. And then I look at these articles, I was like, it's every single weekend.
If you didn't hate Americans before this, right?
Oh, okay. So here's the first one. We have 2 individuals in this article. So Japanese police arrested U.S. Marine and a Navy sailor on suspicion of trespassing in separate incidents. So I like the suspicion part.
Yeah. Well, sure.
And surprise, surprise, both incidents involved alcohol.
Ah, go figure.
Yeah. First incident, the Navy seaman apprentice, Orlando Cruz, 21, climbed onto a 2nd floor balcony of a other U.S. service member around 5 a.m.
God, 5 a.m.
And then struck the window, right? And then struck the window until the person opened up. The police found Cruz behaving violently at this home occupied by an unnamed U.S. sailor in his 30s.
At 5:20 a.m. So was he going all night? Or did he kind of
Yeah, they had been drinking. I bet you they had been drinking that guy had been drinking all night.
Yeah.
Then climbed to this other dude's balcony. And
He was
then
celebrating
knocked
Nuggets
on his window until basically the cops showed up, and then behaved violently.
That's a determined guy. If you're that drunk and you still are able to climb up to a second floor, that's pretty good.
Well, you know what? Not to be outdone by the Navy, the Marines go, hold my damn beer. Right?
Right.
So Crew's blood alcohol level, impressive, of 0.12.
Yeah, that's good.
He only climbed to the second story, though, by the way.
Right.
A little less alcohol level. The Marine, slightly underachieving, but Corporal Weed.
That's an awesome name.
Oh, it's great.
Bladen Weed. That's crazy.
Oh, that's applicable.
He measured only 0.09. So now, I'm sure it was significantly higher.
Only 0.09 when they got him.
Exactly.
So he was coming down.
Yep. So a woman called the cops, local lady called the cops. She's 69 years old after she found Corporal Bladen Weed, 22, sleeping on her 4th floor balcony.
Oh my God.
On Sunday. The woman called the cops at 12:17 p.m. So he
at noon.
Did all this before. And
during the day at noon.
Taking a nap for quite a while.
Yeah. She reported this that an unknown foreigner with excrement in his pants was sleeping on the balcony. So not only did the Marine climb a 4th floor, still blow a 0.09, and have poop in his pants,
fell asleep,
and slept through the day.
Hit himself.
Yeah. I don't know during the climb or after the climb. It doesn't specify in the article.
Wow.
But some shitty pants foreigners on my balcony.
Oh my God.
And then I'll take you back to the earlier statement, suspicion of trespass. Okay.
Middle of the day.
I'm pretty sure she has the poop stains on her balcony. That's not suspicion.
That's confirmation. That's confirmed.
Yeah.
Well, let's flip that around. You walk out on your 4th floor apartment, and you find I don't know, the French soldier laying on your balcony. You're like, enough. My next stop is my councilman is like, get these guys out of here. Right?
Every damn weekend. I come out here on noon on a Sunday, and I find this.
Oh my God! And what are they doing for us? Why
are they here again? Yeah.
Oh my God!
So both service members were held on suspicion of breaking into residences. It's a $700 punishable by 3 years in prison and a $700 fine.
I believe you're going to jail, boys.
Yeah. But they were both 1.5 miles from base.
Just couldn't make it back.
Just couldn't make it.
Just taking a nap. Thanks for closing us out. I think that's end up for today. Good one, Jake. Good one, Eric. Good episode. On behalf of all of us here, I'd like to thank you for listening today. Please like, share, subscribe, and let us know how we did in the comments. And as always, make sure to download the next episode for more Service Headline News. Man, thanks for the week, and I'll see you next week.
Looking forward to it, fellas.
All right, guys. We'll see you later. And Eric, I don't have anything for you.
Come on,
man. I thought I was going to get a big one, man.
It's been several weeks in a row you haven't had.
It's only been 1 week.
All right. I failed on the day in history. You have now failed on your Farad comment.
Yeah. All right.
All right. You got to have one.
Thanks for everyone listening, and we'll see you next week.